Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is getting extremely close to the next massive breakout as we have huge Bitcoin news today. So in just a moment, I'll be talking about that alongside a possible warning signal that we need to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before we take a look at the Bitcoin charts today, we need to talk about the Bitcoin news today because just over the last one day, Michael Saylor has announced that MicroStrategy is officially entering the NASDAQ 100 index. And this is definitely a huge deal for Bitcoin, and I'll explain exactly why. Because first of all, in case you're new to all of this, MicroStrategy is essentially at this point a Bitcoin company. One of the big reasons why MicroStrategy is really even talked about nowadays, to be honest, is because they've been buying so much Bitcoin. And so essentially, whenever Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy can do it, they just issue more shares of MicroStrategy or they take on debt to buy more Bitcoin. Now, they're not super leveraged, but they essentially just want to buy a lot of Bitcoin under MicroStrategy. That's what they've been doing for years now. And of course, just yesterday in my last Bitcoin video, I briefly covered the NASDAQ 100 index, which was essentially that Bitcoin to NASDAQ chart, which I shared yesterday here on the channel. But in case you're new to all of this, the NASDAQ 100 index is one of the largest stock indices in the world. And so it's essentially the top 100 stocks in the US stock market that are non-financial companies. So it's essentially the tech stocks in the NASDAQ 100 index. And just to give you an idea of how massive the NASDAQ 100 index is, the total market cap of the NASDAQ 100 index, if you're putting all that money together of those top 100 companies in the index, that adds up to roughly around 26 trillion US dollars, not million, not billion, but 26 trillion US dollars with a T in this one single index. And once again, MicroStrategy has just now been added to the NASDAQ 100 index. They're now entering into this index. And in case you didn't already know, massive funds like, for example, BlackRock funds or Fidelity funds, for example, pension funds, banks, financial institutions accumulate the NASDAQ 100 index along with the S&P 500 index and other huge stock indices. And basically, whenever a massive player like that, or really anyone, just buys into a NASDAQ 100 index, for example, they essentially buy a small piece of all of the companies in that index. And so what this means for Bitcoin, with MicroStrategy now being added into the NASDAQ 100 index, it means those huge institutional buyers that just passively invest into these huge stock indices like the NASDAQ 100 index. Once again, we're talking about tens of trillions of dollars here. Part of that money, a small portion of that money, will now start buying MicroStrategy stock because it is now entering into this index. Because once again, if you buy, let's just say, one share of the NASDAQ 100 index, you're essentially buying a small piece of all of the companies within that index, which means buying MicroStrategy stock. And of course, the more people that buy MicroStrategy stock, the higher that MicroStrategy stock price goes. And if the stock trades at a premium to the Bitcoin that they actually hold in their reserves, what Michael Saylor does is essentially issue more MicroStrategy shares to basically reduce that premium from the stock price to the amount of Bitcoin that they hold. And they're able to do that for as long as there's a premium on their share price over the amount of Bitcoin that they hold. And once again, when they issue more shares, that means the company is raising more money and they use that money to buy more Bitcoin. And how the NASDAQ 100 and other massive stock indices like this are actually weighted, they essentially have the high market cap companies at the top of the index, which take up the majority of the index, and then the smaller market cap companies take up a smaller portion of the index. And so that effect that I just explained of part of this money right here coming into MicroStrategy to buy MicroStrategy stock, it will start off slowly while MicroStrategy is just entering into the index, being one of the slightly smaller companies compared to the bigger tech stocks out there. But as MicroStrategy grows in market cap, especially if the Bitcoin price keeps going up, which once again, this can create demand pushing Bitcoin higher. If that goes higher, then the amount of Bitcoin that they hold increases in value, which increases the market cap of MicroStrategy. And once again, if the market cap of MicroStrategy increases, that increases their position within this index, which increases the weighting within the index, which increases the demand coming in to buy more MicroStrategy, which increases the amount of Bitcoin that they it can actually buy using that increased demand. And so if you want to just sum all of this up very simply, you can think of Bitcoin as kind of like a virus entering into the financial system where it starts off slowly, but it spreads exponentially. And so the next few months and years will definitely be very exciting to pay attention to. The NASDAQ 100, MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, and of course the Bitcoin price as Bitcoin continues to spread into the broader financial system. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on the weekly time frame, right now the Bitcoin price is still playing out this bull market signal, which I've been talking about for months now on the channel since much lower prices. So right now, things on the larger time frames are still looking bullish. If we're looking at this weekly Bitcoin MACD, this is still looking bullish once again, but just recently has lost a small amount of bullish momentum just in the short term during the larger bullish market. And the last time this happened after a bullish crossover in the weekly Bitcoin MACD was pretty much exactly 1 year ago. And what came next was a bit of a sideways consolidation in the shorter term during the larger bullish market. And so once again, we're seeing a bit of a short-term slowdown during a larger bull run. And if we're taking a look at this 4-day Bitcoin chart, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bullish market. So overall, on the larger timeframes, not a lot has changed over the last 1 day. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, the price of Bitcoin is getting extremely close to breaking out above this Fibonacci extension, acting as a resistance at around 102,000. And now, once we can finally break out above 102k, ideally with a weekly candle close above that level, then in that case, the next major price target is this 2618 Fibonacci extension on this 3-day Bitcoin chart, and that's sitting at around $113,000 per Bitcoin as the next price target to the upside. So essentially, a $10,000 move to the upside could be coming next very soon once we first confirm a breakout above around 102,000. And if you want to get set up ready to go to take that next trading opportunity in the price of Bitcoin, personally, I've been taking a lot of trades over on my BTNex account. So I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim an exclusive deposit bonus, but that's only available if you use the link below this video to make your BTNex account. And so if you simply just use that link to make your account once again and deposit 100 USD worth of crypto, you can get a $20 bonus. If you deposit $500, you can get a $100 bonus. Or if you deposit just 1,000 USDT and start trading, you can get a $200 bonus. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNex, there is also Bybit, which is another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, you can get a 500 USDT position airdrop. So basically a free $500 trade as your first trade over on Bybit, but that's only available if you use the link below this video to make your Bybit account and deposit on that account. But with that being said, taking a look at this Bitcoin chart, and right now the price of Bitcoin on the daily time frame is possibly forming a rising wedge pattern at the same time as playing out this bearish divergence. And so technically speaking, these are two separate bearish indicators to pay attention to. So a rising wedge, statistically speaking, is the bearish pattern because more often than not, it does break to the downside compared to the upside. Now, I want to make it clear it can break out to the upside. That's simply the less likely scenario. So roughly around 1 times out of 3, it breaks out to the upside, and roughly around 2 times out of 3, around 60 to 70% of the time, let's just say, a rising wedge breaks to the downside. And so ultimately, we simply just have to wait for confirmation in order to actually confirm the break of this pattern right here. So once again, right now it's possibly forming, but not active, not confirmed, because we have not yet confirmed a break either above this resistance or below this support. And in case you're wondering, this line of resistance is sitting at approximately 102,000. So once again, at around 102K, that is the level to break in order to flip much more bullish again. But if we were to continue to reject from that resistance and instead we actually break below this line of support right here, which is currently sitting at around 97,000 approximately, then in that case, the short-term bearish price target would be sitting basically at the bottom of the wedge at around $89,000 per Bitcoin. But there is another way we could take a look at the price target by measuring a move like this, which would be sitting at around 90,000. So the first price target would be at around 90,000 and the second price target would be at around 87,000. But once again, I want to make it clear that right now, those possible bearish price targets are not in play. They are not active right now. And this pattern is not active right now. It's just something to pay attention to in case we keep rejecting here and actually confirm a break below this support, which at least as of right now has not happened. And if we're taking a look at this bearish divergence with higher highs in the price and lower highs in the RSI, but on the 12-hour time frame, because of course on the daily time frame and on the 12-hour time frame, this bearish divergence is visible. But if we're specifically looking at the 12-hour time frame here, we can see that right now the price of Bitcoin is following very similar price structure on the exact same time frame to what we saw exactly 4 years ago. And in case you're new to the channel, if this is the first video you're finding on this channel, essentially on the left-hand side right here, this is around December 2020, which was the last Bitcoin halving year before this Bitcoin halving year. Because of course, this year we had a Bitcoin halving, which happens roughly once every 4 years. And then in 2020, we had a Bitcoin halving. And usually we see a bull market following the Bitcoin halvings. And that's exactly what we saw in late 2020, entering into 2021, and exactly what we've seen in recent months, entering into 2025. But right around November to December, in the last bull cycle 4 years ago, we saw a bearish divergence start playing out in the shorter term on the 12-hour time frame, with lower highs in the RSI and higher highs in the price. And what came next was a bit of basically a short-term pullback and some choppy sideways price action. So a slowdown and a slight setback in the short term from all of this bullish price action. But that occurred during a much larger bullish market. And right now we're seeing practically the exact same thing for all intents and purposes. We're seeing pretty much very similar price action right around a significant level on the price chart, which this time is the 100K level. And last time it was the 20K level, right around all-time highs, because back then 20K was the all-time high. And right now it's just above 100K. That's the all-time high. And so once again, all we need to see to flip much more bullish and expect the next major breakout to the upside towards, let's just say 113,000 as that next major price target. In order to see that, we simply just need to break out above 102,000, above this resistance right here with confirmation. So candle closes above that level, and ideally at the same time, seeing a breakout in the RSI, just like what we saw 4 years ago. And in the meantime, we have this line of support right here sitting at approximately 97,000. So basically this line of support right here on the daily time frame. But looking at the 12-hour chart, we do have this area of support based on the volume profile indicator sitting in between around 96,500 to 98,000, acting as strong support. But if we break back below around 96,500, let's just say, then in that case, the next major area of support to the downside is sitting in between 91,000 to 92,000 if we were to confirm a break below around 96,500 with candle closes. But for now, that has not happened. So that is the area of support to pay attention to. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, of course, over the last 1 day, we took another small amount of liquidity out to the upside, which was sitting at roughly around 102,500. But we still have much more liquidity to the upside compared to the downside, at least in the short term. So we have a lot of liquidity still sitting at around 102.8K, and then going all the way up towards around 104 to 105,000. We have a lot of liquidity right there. And as for liquidity to the downside, we have a small amount at around 99,000 approximately, and a decent amount at around 94,000. But other than that, once again, at least for now, we have more liquidity to the upside compared to the downside. But either way, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, once again, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.